Hi, everyone. It's Stephanie again with the patient story for our third part of the interview with Dennis, who again has worked for years with different men dealing with prostate cancer. Dennis, I think it was so fascinating for me to first talk to you initially in our conversation and learn about the work that you do and have done, because as you've pointed out several times in this interview, for various reasons, men may be more reluctant to share. And it's come up with other men I've spoken with. They say the same thing. Men won't talk in groups unless maybe it's a support group, but maybe privately they might. It's just a harder conversation. So what's your message to the men and the guys who are watching right now about how important it is to, maybe seek help or share or voice things, to not bottle things up?
Well, I think the problem boils really down to that men don't like to go to doctors, period. Women, when you reach a certain age, you're going in for your whole cycle changes. At one point, you're seeing gynecologists and what have you. You've moved away from the baby doctor into an adult doctor, in effect. What happens with men is we move away from the pediatrician and say that's kid stuff. We no longer need to go to doctors. We're now men. And of course, you're told all along, you're a man, stand up for yourself, don't be a crybaby, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole male culture is one of, I can't be a victim in many ways. So to admit that I need to go to a doctor is something that is kind of strange. But what guys don't realize is that if they're, I talk to married men and many times and I'll say, well, what do you view as your primary responsibility? Well, to support my family and to take care of my children. And I said, well, what happens if you're dead? And it's like, oh, yeah, that would be a problem, wouldn't it? Well, the problem is with prostate cancer and so many diseases, whether you're dealing with high blood pressure, you're dealing with heart disease, whether you're dealing with diabetes, a lot of these ailments don't show any warning signs until it's too late. So what guys do is they ignore the situation, and then they're trying to be treated in an advanced stage. And the thing that we say to men is you really need to take a responsibility for your personal health. And that doesn't mean you go to the gym. That doesn't mean you play football with the guys and you're healthy, or you run around a track or ride a bike and you're healthy. That means you go in for some type of a routine program, or whether it's on an annual basis or every 2 years, you need to get checked. And it's for two reasons. One, physically, to see what's going on. But more importantly, you're also developing a relationship with your family physician who has a history of you and has an idea of what's going on. And what you got to remember is when you go into a GP's office, 20 minutes after you're gone, he's seen 4 other patients. So you're not top of mind awareness. And you really need to have that relationship built with the doctor. And the other side of it is you need to ask questions. Most guys I talk to, let me get in the doctor's office, let me get out of here. And if a doctor says to you, you don't need a PSA test, walk the other way. Because we're talking about, you've already given a blood sample. For God's sakes, just go and let them do the PSA testing. And if it's a digital exam is required, my recommendation is go to a urologist, because your average general practitioner does not have the skill set that a urologist has for checking your prostate for prostate cancer.
Right.
So it's a matter of guys taking responsibility for their personal health. Women do it all the time. We don't. If you look at the statistics, women live longer than men. They talk to other women about issues that they're having, health issues. Mm-hmm. They talk to doctors. Right. Men don't talk to anyone. We don't want to say anything. We don't want to admit anything. And for any guy, you go into a men's room and you'll see guys standing by the urinal and struggling. And you almost want to say to them, have you been to a doctor? And no, they don't want to go. And I'm not about to ask them either at that point, or hand them my business card. Right. So it's a matter of guys are just basically dumb when it comes to this. And there's no other way to say it. You've really got to get in and you got to be proactive.
Right. And is there something, and I've seen at least and heard in some of the conversations about prostate cancer in particular too, where it seems that men are even more reluctant to talk about it. Have you found that with the people you've spoken with?
Oh, very much so, because I think, you know, a lot of men suggest that their masculinity is tied to erections. And if I have, and I've met men who said, yeah, I've been diagnosed with prostate cancer, but I'm concerned about that, so I'm not going to get it treated. Okay, fine. And what happens is a couple of years later, we see them in the support groups saying, my God, I should have done something. I had no idea.
Mm.
So it's a masculinity thing that I don't want to admit a weakness in any way. And that can be, and I think you and I had a preliminary conversation about the fact that men don't want to appear weak. And if I say that I've got prostate cancer, I'm less of a man than I used to be. And if the only thing that's defining your manhood is your penis, then I think you have an issue, and it's a greater issue than the prostate cancer. So it's a matter of realizing there's a lot more to you than one part of your body.
Right.
And it's
And,
hard for a lot of guys.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I can only imagine. Have you spoken with a range too of different age men when it comes to the prostate cancer? And
Do you want me to, let me just knock that phone off.
sure, sure.
Sorry
That's
about
all
that.
right. It's okay. Yep. I was just asking about the different ages of people you've helped too, and have you seen trends like younger men in this range tend to be even more reluctant, or what that is?
The youngest guy that I worked with was 28 years of age who had prostate cancer,
Wow.
which is kind of interesting. What you wind up with is that prostate cancer was always considered an old man's disease.
Right.
And what we're finding now is that men in their 40s are getting prostate cancer, and that is increasing. If you look at the numbers, the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force a number of years ago had suggested that, you know, men don't really need to get their prostate checked, and that went on for a number of years. And what suddenly began happening, and one of the first organizations that really supported it was the Veterans Administration. And they said, yep, men don't need to be checked any longer. And what began happening is they started finding that, sure enough, the number of cases were dropping because men weren't being checked.
Right.
The other thing that started happening is several years later, the number of advanced cases went through the roof.
Right.
So you're seeing that, and now there's well, maybe you need to be checked. So generally, I think if you're in your 40s, if you've had someone in your family who has had prostate cancer and or breast cancer, because the genes are related,
Yep.
you need to start getting yourself checked. And we're seeing a trend nationally and worldwide of men in their 40s getting prostate cancer and not wanting to go to the doctor, because at 40, you know, and I probably know right now, probably 10 to 12 men in their 40s with prostate cancer. And it's not all men, you know, in their 50s and 60s. Yeah, guys at that age do get it. But again, the youngest guy that I knew was 28 years of age.
Incredible. I mean, that's just insane.
It was a mistake that was made on his blood work, that they ran a PSA test and the numbers came through the roof.
Wow.
And the doctor said, your numbers are extremely high for your age. Let's go to a urologist. Urologist checked them over, and they did a biopsy and found he had advanced prostate cancer at that age.
Wow.
So you're not safe at any age. You really need to get checked.
Right.
And the thing is, there's really, for the most, when this starts, there are no symptoms when it's most treatable.
Exactly. And you know, to your point earlier too, I mean, this is one of those cancers where you can get checked, you know, you can monitor, you can try and catch it early, versus there are other cancers out there like pancreatic where you don't even have that method. So if you can, right, if you have the means, go to the doctor, just get it done, get the numbers checked out. Dennis, I know you work with many people. What are the top two or so sorts of questions? I know you've covered some, but that you work through, some of the top concerns people ask you about.
I think the top concerns really come down to, I think I have a problem, but I don't want to go to a doctor. So what we did is we have the National Prostate Cancer Awareness Foundation that really talks about the general awareness of prostate cancer. And what we also did is we started something called the Prostate Cancer Coach. And we did that where we have men who have had prostate cancer who are available to talk to you online. And there we find we have wives calling up, we have partners calling up saying, I can't get him into the doctor. I can't get my husband in. I can't get my partner in. I can't get my grandfather in. And they have all kinds of questions about how do I motivate him to get in and get checked. So we spend a lot of time with that. And guys are reluctant to talk about any of the symptoms. So if you say, how's your sex life? It's fine, because he can't get an erection or he's having problems with erections. And they don't realize, and we say to them, it may be prostate cancer, but it may be a heart condition. Do you want to die of a heart attack? Well, hell, I don't want to do that. So then you can kind of bring them in. The thing that I find is the most powerful tool is when we talk to the women in men's lives and say, try to motivate him, talk about the family care. Don't say to him, I'm going to bring you to the doctor, but talk about you. We really need you, and you're the support of the family, and your children will miss you. And the guys don't realize that by ignoring their health, children lose fathers, and grandfathers lose grandchildren, and wives lose spouses and partners and life and financial support. And it's a terrible, terrible legacy for no reason, because guys are just being dumb about it.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that, Dennis.
My last,
no, that was very helpful, because you've had experience in talking with, so many different people, and I'm sure from different walks of life. And my last question to you is really open-ended, and it's just your sort of final message to those who are watching. You've covered many, many, topics already, but if you had one last thing you'd like to share.
the last thing I'd like to share with men is that you are not supermen. You are not indestructible. And the majority of men who have prostate cancer don't realize how deadly it is. We all hear that prostate cancer is a cancer that men can live with. It's the good cancer. Well, tell that to the 30,000 to 40,000 men a year who die from prostate cancer. And it's I think the one thing I would say, if you're driving along in your car and your check engine light comes on, you don't unplug the bulb. You say, gee, I have to do something. And when you have a PSA test and your numbers are high, that's your warning light. Don't unscrew the light bulb. Go and get yourself checked.
Absolutely. That's actually a great analogy. I would love to let people know that Dennis's story will be up on thepatientstory.com, and we'll also link to your foundation and to the prostate cancer coach. Is that what it was?
The prostate cancer coach.
That's right. And we'll make sure to link to that so people can find you in that resource. But Dennis, thank you again for sharing in great detail what you went through, and of course, what you've learned in your many discussions with other people. We appreciate your time so much.
I'm absolutely glad to give it.
Wonderful.
And thank you so much for interviewing me.
Absolutely. Thank you.